You got to get up there and hit that sympathetic level. You got to be able to perform, but you got to be able to shut it down.
Hello, and welcome aboard another episode of the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast. This is your captain speaking, Taylor Morgan. On today's episode, we have another special guest. His name is Taylor Somerville. Taylor is an XPT master coach, which I'm excited to get into, as well as the founder of Symmetry, a breath, mindset, and lifestyle brand focused on helping busy professionals take back control of their lives so they have more time, more energy, and less stress. Symmetry's mission is to change your relationship with stress by teaching you proven methods to help you respond instead of react in stressful situations. Taylor, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Taylor.
Yeah, I like the name. Good choice.
It's easy. I can remember that.
So yeah, we found each other. Well, I found you through Growth Current, which I interviewed Jeremy Park on my podcast a few episodes ago. Like I mentioned before we started recording, that was one of my favorite interviews I've done. Just all the work that he's doing. And then we collaborated together with Growth Current as well. And I saw you on there and I was like, oh, this is good. Because people need to know about this stuff, the breath work, the ice and the heat. It's not talked about as much as I think it should be.
Yeah, Growth Current's great. And Jeremy, they're doing great work. They're also based out of Memphis, Tennessee here, and putting a lot of information out and speakers. And they have a very, very good following and product that they're putting out there.
Mm-hmm. So I'm visiting Nashville. This is a little bit off topic in the mid-August for a bachelor party. Is Memphis close to Nashville?
It is about 2.5 to 3 hours away.
Oh, damn. Okay.
We're on the western edge of the state and they're right in the center.
Gotcha. I was going to say, I'm going to have to come make a visit, but we're probably going to be busy doing other stuff.
Yeah, I would think big bachelorette and bachelor party haven.
Yeah. But as I claimed myself as the wellness representative for the bachelor party. And I was like, we are definitely doing ice baths of some sort, whatever is available, whether that's cold showers or something.
I'll look into it. There might be some places. I've done some workshops there. There's a couple of cool CrossFit gyms. I don't know if they have anything set up or not yet, but good spots there to go.
All right. We'll keep in contact then. So back to the show. I guess that was a little off topic, but I want to hear about how you got into this whole breath and mindset practice, because I think a lot of my listeners will really resonate from it, coming from a stressful job, relationship stress. So talk to us how you got involved in this.
Yeah, I was in the investment business for 15 years, right out of college, graduated college in the early 2000s after the first stock market crash of the recency, and went into the investment world. Kind of grew through that. And I was, last 11 years of that, I was on a trading floor working in at a commodity trading company, dealing with macroeconomic prices, interest rates, futures, really figuring out, kind of diving in what's going on in the world. Very high stress job, up 4 a.m. every day in front of 4 computer screens, pretty much locked in to that all day long. When I got home, it was pretty similar. Before I would go to bed, it was what in the world's happened as the Asian markets had opened. So it was a constantly connected, constantly trying to figure out what was going on. Very high stress environment, dealt with a lot of anxiety, especially kind of going through that 2008 financial crisis. After that, was a very reactionary person, very easy to kind of fly off the handle. At that same time, I, late, 2012 to 14 went through a divorce. And so added the professional stress with personal stress all together. And I just knew I needed to do something else to help me. I've always been into trying to figure out why we do the things we do. It's one of the things I love about markets and economics is looking at historical trends and seeing why people make the same mistakes over and over again. Very into behavioral economics, looking at our biases and why we make the mistakes we do with money, and they turn around being the same mistakes we do in our life and trying to make changes. I started in with mindfulness meditation and realized that helped me just as I began to kind of get a better hold of what was going on, being able to sit in a little bit of stillness, which was incredibly hard, still is hard. From there, I ventured out, found Wim Hof techniques, went down that rabbit hole. And then I heard Laird Hamilton and Brian McKenzie and Gabby Reese on Tim Ferriss's podcast and talking about what they were doing, the principles behind all their different breathing methods, behind the heat and cold, behind the pool training, behind just their lifestyle and kind of the philosophies that they had and the way they were looking at it and dealing with it with the group of people that they dealt with. Very principled, and it combined, not just one method. It was looking at a whole bunch of different methods and really trying to drill down into the same thing, why these techniques affect us in certain ways, how we can use them to ramp us up, how we can use them to calm us down, how we can use them to increase our athletic performance as well. So I went to what is called the XPT Experience, have them out at Laird and Gabby's house. I'm in Hawaii and go there. It's about 20 people I would call high performer, type A type individuals, lawyers, doctors, financial people, pro athletes, Olympians, you kind of name it. There's a bunch of different people there. And I've been doing these techniques by myself for a long time and started doing them, got thrown into doing it with a group and was like, wow, this is completely game changer when you're in a group. Doing the breath techniques, long, about 45-minute breath session, was just blown away by that. Then we do the heat and the cold. That's the first time I'd ever done it with a sauna. I had thrown some ice bags, bags of ice in my bathtub, trying it that way. Way different experience than when you get into a tub with about 200, 250 pounds of ice in it. And notice too that everyone there was scared, either if they'd done it before or not. Before we go into that ice, everyone's quiet and kind of panicking to some extent. Like, what is going to happen? Am I going to be the guy who jumps out of here? Of course, they coach us through incredibly well. After the first round, everybody's in the sauna, opens up, and it's just kind of like the truth barrel. You meet a whole new people, get the community built. So I came home from that, and I was actually, I had been in the process of wanting to leave my job for probably a year and a half and trying to figure out the best way to do that. I just knew I didn't want to be in that position anymore. I didn't want to look back when I was 70 and still be sitting in the same chair that I was then. And I was also training for a 24-hour event. So I came home and we got ice baths, got my girlfriend, my friends, started making them do all the stuff that I was doing and put in a plan to leave my job. And within 5 months, I was out. Next thing you know, XPT starts a coaching certification that following January. And I was one of the first people to go through that. And from there, just kind of never looked back. Just went down the rabbit hole and just expanded it with a host of other practices as well. Yeah,
so you kind of just brushed past what XPT and it is and what Gabby and Laird have created. And it's no small thing. XPT is legit. And you being a master coach, let's dive into a little bit about what XPT is, who Laird and Gabby are, if people haven't heard of them.
So XPT stands for Extreme Performance Training, and it's whole philosophy of breathe, move, and recover. We can hit it hard training at the gym, but you got to be able to recover. And one of the best ways is using your breath, not only to help you perform well in the gym, perform well in life. You have a meeting, getting prepped for a presentation. You can use techniques to get you ready for that. Using the ice bath and sauna, not only to recover, but also to prep your mind and really learn how to deal with stress in the moment. When you get thrown into those ice baths, it is a, fight or flight, get me the hell out of here right now, extreme scenario that you can do consciously, and learning how to control your response to stress in that environment translates over into many other areas. And Laird, who is a big wave surfer, probably one of the most famous big wave surfers, first guy to do like the 70-foot waves, toe-in surfing. He incorporates a lot of these breath holds, and for that, he does a lot of pool work as well. And his wife, Gabby Reese, who is a professional volleyball player and actress, top athlete herself. One of the big things is the pool. And in the pool, you're jumping with weights, you're swimming holding weights, there's breath holding, you're doing things that get you extremely uncomfortable. And it's also an area where you have to learn you got to let go. You can't always push and fight and fight. Sometimes you just got to let go, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Once you get that under control, you're able to go further than you thought you could instead of that panicking response. So you really learn how to control your breath in those type of environments, and it all translates over into to the real world and what you're doing with your family, with your job, in all those areas. And so I've been, as a master coach, over the years, we started the master coach. There's 6 of us based in 4 in the U.S., 1 in the U.K., 1 in Mexico, and we hold workshops. We have certified other coaches as well, and we're kind of out there putting the message out as best as we can. We all have our own businesses as well that we run this stuff through.
Yeah, Gabby and Laird are living legends for sure with everything that they've created.
Great people too.
And I hope to go through XPT one day. I mean, I will eventually, just is a matter of when. Tell me a little bit about the process of becoming a master coach. Like what was the criteria for that?
So it was, they kind of hand selected a group who were the first coaches to go through in the first couple of groups. We also went through a couple other levels, and it was really diving into all of the science, getting in all the research, understanding it intimately, and also having a background of doing the work with a lot of people in our own world. I'm not sure the exact number, but I may say about 500 probably coaches around the country. That includes just breath coaches as opposed to coaches who do a little bit of everything. And, we really had to dive into that material, pretty much kind of go through every level of research, because what they've been doing, they had done these protocols for decades with their group of pro athletes, friends, getting together, Laird, experimenting, trying new things, realizing, okay, these things work with us in experimental focus. Then what they did is decided we need to, turn this into something that we can get out to more people. Brought in a guy, PJ Nestler, who put the curriculum together along with a group of scientific advisors, Patrick McEwen, who's the Oxygen Advantage, Kelly Starrett, Wim Hof's involved with that as well. So you had a big group of scientific research advisors as well, really diving into the information that they were going over and using and put those programs together. So it was just that, a long time of continued study, learning, and really the practical aspect of it as well, seeing us teach it, seeing us do it, being people out there in the field who are doing this. And when I started there, now there's a lot of people doing breath stuff. It's kind of gotten a lot bigger, especially with COVID and everything. When I first started, especially in Memphis, Tennessee, I came back here and was like, is anybody going to have any idea what in the world I'm doing? Understanding it all, kind of have to shift the terminology around some things, which XPT does very well, to changing, from some of the older language to more performance-based language, letting people realize that no matter what you're doing, these techniques can help you. It's not just about being like a monk and sitting there and doing the stuff. It's, you can do things quick in the moment. That'll turn you around. But if you just begin to practice this stuff as you go throughout your day, you're going to see a dramatic shift. For one, how you're handling the stresses of life, your ability to focus, concentrate, communicate with other people, and reading into what's going on in those stories and stuff that you're telling yourself. It's becoming more aware of your thoughts and actions too.
Yeah. So now let's get into Symmetry. So you knew you wanted to leave the investment world. That was not for you, the high stress of that. What made you decide to start Symmetry? Like, why not something else? Like, why not start a gym or something like that, which is, I feel like the more typical route, especially
that
as
was
a
definitely
CrossFit coach.
Something that was in my mind, something I was thinking about as well. When I first started, I wasn't really sure how well the techniques were going to be received, and whether or not I wanted one physical location. I wasn't, this 3 years ago, wasn't sure about that. I knew I wanted to try to get the information out to as many people. So one of the things I wanted to do was travel all over the South, because there was nobody else in the South. So I went to Nashville, Birmingham, Atlanta, a little bit everywhere. We've got another master coach in Houston, done stuff there, Austin, Florida, kind of. So I started out traveling all around. And as I was laying out the kind of business plan on what I wanted to do, I was already working out at a bunch of different gyms and involved with different gym communities. And I did not necessarily want to compete with them. I thought these techniques could be beneficial to everybody. And if I opened my own physical gym location, I figured they would see it as more competition. I wanted to just come in there and bring the techniques. So I also, there was a coach in Virginia who was building these mobile saunas at the time. Got connected with him, got a mobile sauna. I was able to begin to take that around to gyms all over, do breath workshops, do heat and ice, do kind of a little full 3-hour workshop on Saturdays. Some gyms I would do it a little bit more often where I just do heat and ice, do breath sessions as well, and just really started growing, doing a lot of it out of group classes. So I would go and, kind of give a one-on-one spiel. And then as everything progressed over the last couple of years, was traveling a lot more, doing a lot of that. And then when COVID hit, I had to pivot like everybody else and went to doing a lot of stuff online and working a lot more with one-on-one. I've been doing one-on-one work prior to that, but really shifted my focus at Symmetry to working with individuals one-on-one, because that's where I find you can get a lot of benefit. I started out my first one-on-one just having people do a couple of sessions at a time, and that didn't get a lot of benefit that way. I didn't feel like they were really growing from it. I didn't see gains that they could get if they actually dug into it and really went down and went through a more curriculum-based program of, adjusting for their needs, but really kind of teaching them the principles like I've discussed so they can begin to use them in their lives when they need them. Because we have the science, we know the research behind everything, but everybody's nervous system is a little bit different. And really trying to get people to dive into kind of why they're doing the things they're doing. And in modern society, nowadays, we're just all so on, and we just have so much coming at us. And we're just kind of stuck in this chronic sympathetic overdrive, and teaching people, hey, you got to get up there and hit that sympathetic level. You got to be able to perform, but you got to be able to shut it down. We weren't meant to just stay like that all the time. And really trying to teach people that level, that when you come down and you're able to bring yourself down, you can turn it back on quicker and perform better when you really need to.
Yeah, and I saw this during my time as a CrossFit coach, and this is what led me to start what I do now, is because there would be athletes coming up to me saying, hey, like, why am I not getting better? And I'd ask them, well, how are you recovering? Like, what's the quality of your sleep? What's your nutrition? Are you stressed from work, relationships, whatever? And they were just these, like you said, like type A personalities, like go, high achievers. They were so sympathetically driven, and they never activated their parasympathetic nervous system. They were always in fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you don't get stronger from working out by working out. You get stronger and you adapt once you recover from those workouts. So if you're not prioritizing the recovery, you might actually be making yourself weaker as opposed to building yourself up. And not just in the gym sense, but also like in the corporate world, which I know you do as well with Symmetry, the stress from that, if you don't recover, or I love the phrase, learning how to respond instead of react. That's something that I preach as well. So before we get into that, actually, let's talk a little bit about why stress is such an issue.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, it's not the acute. It's not that stress is good or bad. Stress just is. We need stress. It is requirement for us to grow. That's how we get better no matter what we're doing. We stress ourselves a little bit, then we dial back, we recover, stress ourselves a little bit more, dial back, recover. And it's a whole process. But when it becomes detrimental and is so harmful, and why we see so many problems with long-term health issues, is because we don't ever dial it back, and we're just continually stressing ourselves. So when we get stressed, and that's whether it's physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress, our body just goes through a generalized response. Our heart rate increases, our breathing rate increases. We release cortisol, adrenaline. We all need those things. But if you're not shutting them off, then like you're saying, you're just creating a catabolic area where you begin to break down every system in your body. begin to make your heart work more than it needs to, your digestive system more than you need to. And, really everything, not able to turn yourself off to go to sleep. And that's when we really recover our mind, our body. It's just like one of the things on the mental side of it, you think about, when do you figure things out? It's never when you're in the process of doing the research and like really grinding into it. You've been doing something for 2 hours. It's when you step away, you go to bed, you go take a shower, you go for a walk, you turn your brain off for a minute, and then your brain says, your subconscious puts the pieces together and you have it and you learn and grow from that way. So, it's just the ability to come down when you need to and not stay stuck in that overdrive. And that's where I really use the breath as the foundation, because the breath is one of the few tools that we have that can bring us down out of that. It is automatic, but it's under our control. And I believe it's under our control for a reason. And that reason is it's a tool that we can use to ramp us up when we need to or bring us down.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, that stress is neither good or bad. I mean, it's both. There's good stress, there's bad stress. And people like cortisol, for example, is always demonized, like reduce your cortisol, which I would say for the majority of people is probably good. But if you don't have any cortisol, you're going to die. Like your body needs cortisol. It like part of the circadian rhythm. Cortisol is high in the morning, drops throughout the rest of the day. The problem, as you know, is it's almost reversed now for a lot of people. Low cortisol in the morning, so they need coffee to wake themselves up. Then they're stressed out throughout the workday. They come home, more stress from news, what have you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the negative, both mental and physical side effects from unmanaged bad stress.
Well, I mean, you look at the heart for one, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease. That's some of the main issues you can see right there, just physically. Emotionally, you're less able to communicate with your partner, whether that is your friends, your family, or your business partners. When you're constantly stressed and you're kind of flying in that upper zone, that sympathetic overdrive, you're not really listening to what other people are saying. You're just there to tell them what you want to tell them when they get done speaking. It's not really a conversation. So, that's one. You can become a better communicator when you deal with that stress. And just being there for the people around you. And you also find that, as you mentioned, like cortisol, that helps you get focused. That's what you need. But now everybody's kind of jacked up in how their cortisol and melatonin production is. So you have an inability to focus. And one of the things the phone, the computer, constantly needing to check that, it's that just drive to see, okay, maybe did somebody text me? Am I get a little dopamine hit out of that? So it's really just looking at it in a few different areas, and stress will negatively affect all systems of our body, your digestive system, things like heartburn, GERD, stuff like that can all have to do with your stress levels. So, it really goes deep into a lot of the problems that we're seeing. I think one of the last studies, it's like, costs the U.S. economy like $500 billion a year in businesses, and decreased productivity and increased healthcare costs just by the stress of the employees.
Yeah, what'd you say that number was? 500?
I think it's about five. Last one I read, it was a few years ago. It's about $500 billion a year.
Okay, yeah, I definitely want to get into that. That was actually one of my questions. But before we dive in there, I had a question that slipped to my mind once you said that, because it piqued my interest.
Yeah.
So I forgot about the other thing. So I guess we'll just stick on this, because I thought it was 300 billion. But then you said 500 billion. And regardless, whether it's 300 or 500 billion lost to too much stress, that's still way too much. So yeah, like you said, it's estimated between 300 and 500 billion is lost from employers because their employees are so stressed out. And that money comes from lost productivity, employee turnover, medical bills, insurance, and legal costs, and absenteeism. So specific to my audience, who are entrepreneurs who hire employees to work for them, talk about why it's so important to incorporate some of these stress reduction strategies or stress management tactics that you teach with Symmetry.
For one, you're going to have them enjoy their job a little bit more. They're going to be able to perform as well.
Yes.
Not always feeling like they have to be constantly go, go, go. Given, you look at also research, people can only function, stay focused for 90 minutes max. Having just small breaks. One of the things I teach, especially people who are in the business world, is using breath and tools like this during your transitions. So you're on Zoom meetings all day long, or between any meeting you do, right when you get off, slow your breath rate down. When you are constantly speaking and talking, one of the things you're doing is blowing off a lot of carbon dioxide, which effectively ends up starving your brain and your body of oxygen, narrowing your blood vessels and airways. So the ability to slow your breath down, and that's also keeping you in that sympathetic stress state. Slowing your breath down, breathing in through your nose, breathing diaphragmatically, lower, less breath per minute for just a couple of minutes. You can bring yourself back down into that parasympathetic state and allow you to work harder the next time you need to. So whether that's walking outside, going outside is a great way to do that as well, because you need to get your eyes out of the computer screen, more into a panoramic view, and looking outside into nature is a great way to do that. So your employees will be more productive. For one, they're better able to just communicate what they need, communicate in meetings, and as I mentioned, they're going to end up having a good time. And depending on whether or not you are dealing with their healthcare and all that, depending on the type of employees, a lot of big corporations are beginning to use these techniques, and they see massive benefits. Let's see, I've got a couple of them here.
The Google example, I know from your website.
Google is Google, Aetna, Intel. I mean, it is all, let's see, Google says they save $3,000 per employee on increased productivity and lower their healthcare costs 7%. Intel's about the same. And same with Aetna. They're all roughly in that area. Also about an hour, at least an hour a week in increased productivity.
Yeah. And that's crazy. And so that's why one of the things that I teach in my program for entrepreneurs is, first we have them come up with their core values, their mission statement, their vision statement. And then I drive it into them. I was like, if you're going to hire, or when you're going to hire employees, you need to hire by, reward by, and fire by your core values. Because if you get somebody who's not aligned with the vision or where you want to take your brand, then they're not going to enjoy working for you. That's one of the big reasons why stress is such a big issue, is because they either don't like their boss, they don't like the job, they don't align with it. They're just doing it for another job, just for a paycheck. I think that working for just a paycheck at just another job is going to dramatically start to decrease over the next few years, because we're starting to talk about this more, that loving what you do, not stressing out about your job for 40 years and then being happy when you're 65. Like, you can be happy now just doing work that you love. And even if you feel stuck in a position right now as an employee, a lot of those tactics that you just mentioned make it so much easier to reduce that stress until you can, find a new position. And
you might find that you actually like what you're doing a little bit more just by
when you can relax
as well.
Yeah. Yo, Taylor here. So I'm sure you've heard me harp on sleep and basically every single podcast and video that I put out, because it truly is that important. And I'm excited to announce that I've created something very simple and very tactical that you guys can use to start improving your sleep immediately. In fact, it is the fastest way to improve the quality of your sleep and therefore the quality of your life, with amazing results after just one single night of implementation. Seriously, this is the same nightly ritual that I personally use, and it's the same strategy that I teach all of my high-performing clients in the Captain's Lifestyle program. It's the 4-3-2-1-30 method, and I'm giving it away to you guys for free. All you have to do is follow the link in my Instagram bio or in the show notes of this podcast, and I'll send it over so you can start sleeping better tonight. But please do not sleep on this offer. It's literally free, so no excuses. Go do it, and sweet dreams. I want to get into the tactics, but I remembered what I was going to say before. on the mental and physical effects that poorly managed stress can have. You mentioned a lot of things, and ultimately, I think it comes down to every negative thing that you could possibly experience probably has some relation to stress, because stress increases inflammation. Inflammation is the cause of all chronic diseases, and that's like the bad stuff. There's stuff even, not super like deadly disease, but
Yeah.
like brain fog. Like stress absolutely contributes to brain fog. So it's the whole range of things. Sleep issues, and sleep is foundational to performance. So let's talk real quick on the relationship between stress and sleep. Not only how it can reduce the quality of your sleep, but also things you can do before bed to help alleviate that.
Yeah. So before bed, I'm big on getting off the electronics.
Yeah.
People think they need to check email, but in reality, very few people actually do.
To cut you off here, but it's very related. I had a client who we recorded a podcast. The title of it is From Email Alarm Clock to Living the Captain's Lifestyle. He used to kind of half jokingly wake up by the notifications from his work email.
Oh yeah.
And then he would just be reacting all day up until bedtime. And like, you wonder why you can't sleep. You're just constantly reacting to the next fire.
That's right. You're reacting, and your brain is never able to turn off. You're not going to get any deep sleep. You're never going to be able to really recover. Mention getting out of the phone, the electronics, doing something to just trigger your body to shut down. Maybe that's reading.
It's not a light switch. You can't just shut off work.
Turn it off instantly when you get in bed. It's a process. So, keeping your room dark, reading is one of the ways. Breath work, stretching, mobility. Everybody's a little bit different. So it's all about, here's a few things that might work. Try different ones out for you. Could be just sitting there and talking with your partner, whatever it is. Big on doing a short little breathing session, just slowing your breath down before you go to bed. Really talking about extending your exhales in through the nose. For this, I'd like to go out of the mouth. If you're a little wound up, and then slow it down where you're in through the nose, out through the nose. In for 3 to 4, pause, out for about 6 to 8, and then holding at the end of that exhale until you're ready to breathe again. So creating that space between our breath, which is also an area where people try to just run to the next breath. And then if you're not giving that natural pause and space in your breath, your body's on that trigger and fight or flight. It thinks it needs to keep going and keep going. As you slow the breath down, your body slows down, realizes everything's okay. It can relax, start calming the system down, calming your whole nervous system down, getting you ready for bed. Another thing that I find is very beneficial for sleep is, as long as you don't have any major health issues, you're a healthy individual, taping your mouth. I've been doing it for years, get all my clients to do it, at least try it. Most people are like, you're crazy. And then they try it and we're like, that works. If you're snoring, if you wake up a lot during the middle of the night, having to go to the bathroom, if you wake up in the morning and your mouth's dry, or you're just really lethargic when you get up, there's a good chance you're breathing in and out of your mouth all night long. And what that's doing is that is roughly another third of your day where you are signaling your body to stay in that sympathetic fight or flight stress response, because that's really the only time you should be breathing in and out of your mouth. Is evolutionarily is when you're talking or you're running from the line and trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
And if you're breathing like that all night long, your body does not recover. Yeah. So there's a lot of brands now that make tape for that. A company called Myotape, Somnifix. But I just use 3M micropore tape. All you need is a small little strip that goes, you can even leave the creases open. It's much cheaper than those other brands. And what you'll find is when you first start doing it, it might end up on your pillow, on your body when you first couple, sessions, maybe first week or so, then all of a sudden it'll start sticking. And if you track your sleep, give it a try and see how it changes your REM and deep sleep. you can allow that to kind of give you a little basis for whether or not you feel like it's working, but also how do you feel when you wake up? And then that's a big thing. And then, I think the morning is also key for the night. One of the ones that I've given a lot of my clients, which got from Dr. Andrew Huberman, who puts out a lot of great information on this kind of stuff, got a great podcast, is getting that sunlight first thing in the morning to really kickstart the cortisol production, to get the melatonin production come down. And so that melatonin production will kick in at the end of the day. So whether that is a 10-minute walk with your dog, having coffee outside for 10 minutes, I think that's great to help your circadian rhythm get activated.
Absolutely. So the blue light stimulates cortisol production and also shuts off melatonin production. So it's really good to help wake you up in the morning and reset your sleep for that night. And that's also why you want to stay off screens, because the blue light from your screens, not only does it shut off melatonin production, but because blue light raises cortisol, you're stressed out, you're not sleepy before bed. That's obviously a big issue. And yeah, I recommend mouth tape to my clients too, especially if they're mouth breathers, all those reasons that you mentioned. And when people hear mouth taping, they think like a strip of duct tape around the face. It's not like that. It's just a very tiny strip of tape just to keep your lips closed. And if you really needed to, you could just open your mouth immediately.
Yeah, and your body's number one goal is respiration. It's gonna breathe. That little piece of tape is not gonna stop you from breathing, no matter how clogged up your sinuses are, no matter how unused to it you are, unless you have some major issues. Wouldn't do it if you've been drinking a lot or have upset stomach, something like that. But normal, healthy individual, regular night, go for it. I think it does wonders.
Yeah, and I'm also glad that you brought up how your morning ritual, specifically the sunlight, impacts your sleep and your cortisol levels, because that's actually what I collaborated with Jeremy on with Growth Current, is my cages morning ritual and the 4-3-2-1-30 method for a nightly ritual, and how those two combine synergistically to create optimal performance. Because if you don't block out the first hour of your day, and at bare minimum the last hour of your night, like we've talked about, you're just reacting. So let's get into a little bit about that, how reacting can basically run your whole day.
That is huge. That's one of the things I work with all my clients on, is setting aside some time. You've got to, before you jump into your phone, checking your email, checking the news, whatever it is that you do. When you do that, you're just leaving yourself open to be bombarded the rest of the day, because you're allowing that to control your day as opposed to you controlling your day. So get up. It doesn't even need to be super long in my opinion. 5 minutes. Slow your breath down, connect with your breath. I like box breathing is a good technique for in the morning. Very easy. You can start out with about 3 seconds. If you've never done it, just in for 3, hold for 3, out for 3, hold for 3. Just continue that for 3 to 5 minutes. You can even do it in the shower. Getting some type of movement in, whether it's walking, a little bit of mobility, anything. It doesn't have to be an intense workout. You just need to move your body, especially if you're going to go sit for a long time. Get your joints working. You've been laying down and snagging all night. Get everything flowing. Jump up and down for a minute. It's a great thing that I like to do in the morning. Kind of just gets lymphatic fluid pumping, gets everything going, and just roll all of your joints out. They're sticking, especially as you age. You got to get moving all that stuff. So a little bit of breath, a little bit of movement, a little bit of sunlight, and then depending on your dietary nutrition, how you eat. Everybody's a little bit different. A lot of fat people these days don't eat anything in the morning. I go towards the more fats and protein. So avocados, eggs, hot sauce, salsa, something like that, which will keep you satiated for a long period of time instead of going towards those more carbohydrates, simple carb, processed foods, which is just going to make you hungry again in another hour And it's also going to make you crash as your sugar levels can crash down, and you're going to be a little bit more lethargic mid-morning. So having some, if you do intermittent fasting, most, they're pretty good at keeping that, knowing how to do their body and when to eat. But if not, getting some just fats and proteins. And then the other thing is to hydrate before you stimulate. And that is drinking. The first thing I do is drink water with a little bit of apple cider vinegar, lime, and sea salt. Find it very refreshing, just kind of cleans you out, gets you some electrolytes, gets you some hydration, because you also, not had anything to drink all night before you go to that coffee. And I like to hold the coffee back until, at least an hour, preferably 2 before you go into having the coffee, and let your body wake up naturally, like we're talking about, let that natural cortisol production start to kick in before you have that cup of coffee.
Yeah, good point. I recommend 90 minutes to 2 hours, like you said, because when you wake up, your cortisol should be at its peak when you wake up. So that should wake you up. And if that's not the case, then there's obviously some imbalance in your circadian rhythm, and we can fix that through, like you're talking about, the morning ritual, the evening ritual, staying off electronics, all that type of stuff. You mentioned that your mouth should only be open evolutionarily, either when you're talking, eating, or sprinting away from an animal. And people might think, well, some mouth breathers, they live their whole lives like, I think it looks ridiculous, but
there's a reason that people used to be called mouth breathers, and it was a derogatory term.
Yeah.
Now it's a little too common to make it a derogatory term, I guess.
I mean, I still use it as a derogatory term, not in like a mean way, but just kind of like, because when I was in the Marine Corps, the drill instructors would scream at anybody they saw mouth breathing, just because I don't think they knew the physiological effects of breathing nasally, but it's just because they look ridiculous. And, you're supposed to look professional and neat and tidy and all that. Like if you're standing there breathing through your mouth, looking like you don't have a clue what's going on.
Look lost.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to get into that, but even if you're not a mouth breather, a lot of people breathe through their mouth while they're exercising, because they exercise at high intensity, especially in the CrossFit world, like we're familiar with. And that used to be me too, until I figured out the powers of nasal breathing. So now I do almost all of my workouts through the nose, and I know you do too. So talk to us a little bit about the physical performance enhancing sides of nasal breathing and diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah. So, and for workouts, really think of it as nasal breathing is like a foundation, especially, aerobic capacity, endurance, that kind of stuff. What you're doing is you're training your body to do more with less. You need the carbon dioxide in your system to get the oxygen into your tissues. If you don't have the right amount of carbon dioxide, you're just taking oxygen in, it's just going back out. It's not really doing anything. It's also constricting the blood vessels and constricting the airway, so you're not getting as much pushed out to your working muscles and brain as well. You also have nitric oxide in your nasal passages, which helps dilate all that and pushes it out into your system. There's sports supplements with nitric oxide, but we have it in our nose, and that's one of the ways that we can use it. Breathing in through your nose is also trains your respiratory muscles and strengthens your respiratory muscles. Your diaphragm is, the main breathing muscle, and it's also the center of gravity. And it's there to keep you stable and keep you moving through space better. If you're just coming in and breathing in and out of your mouth into your upper chest, you're not using your diaphragm, you're opening yourself up to get injured. You're also telling your brain that it needs to shut down way quicker because you're taxing secondary respiratory muscles. And so it believes, all right, we're close to dying. Let's start taking the power away from our legs and arms and our working muscles, because we're not really able to push it. So when you start training with a nose, for one, it's very hard. You have to slow down, so you have to check your ego at the beginning. When you first start doing it, I find that it takes about a month to really start seeing adaptations. Some of the research, Dr. George Dahlem, he's done a ton of research. He used to be the head of the U.S. triathlon team. He's a professor at Colorado State, one of the Colorado States. does a lot of research. He says, anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months. But I've, with clients, seen a lot of benefit in 4 months. You're building that base and foundation. So after you get through that struggle period where, especially running workouts, neck guns, you're going to have to slow down.
Yep.
You will end up having an extra gear. And then you'll end up, after you build that base with the nasal only work, you're going to be able to drop the hammer when you need to. You'll also find that you recover way quicker because you're keeping the oxidative stress lower by breathing in through your nose. And you're keeping your body in that mind in that more parasympathetic state. And you can use the breath also to quickly recover after the workout, helping you drop your heart rate fast. And a lot of techniques to use there, but it's really, about building that base, learning how to efficiently use oxygen that you're taking in, keeping your body stable. And then as you build that base, learning, all right, when do I need to go in through my nose, out of the mouth? When do I need to go in through the mouth, out of the mouth? Which is really only when you're at the last effort, end of a workout, competition, because you only have the ability to do that at a sustained pace for so long. With training, you can work up to 85% of your max heart rate just by breathing into your nose. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult, but you can do it. And as you build and strengthen those respiratory muscles, strengthen your diaphragm, strengthen your intercostals with the resistance of your nose as well, it's just going to make your body stronger and build your endurance, build that aerobic capacity. Great.
Yeah, and that's about what I found too, is it took about a month to kind of get used to it. And now it's just natural. Like I almost always breathe through my nose, and it truly does provide a very significant performance enhancement. Like you just feel more calm and relaxed through the workout as opposed to, stressed out and hyperventilating first thing when you start out a Metcon. And then, like you mentioned, you got this little tank of nitric oxide or nitrous oxide to boost when you need it, towards the end of a workout. But with the clients that I coach now, who are not trying to be professional athletes, they just want to, look good naked. I think, just your average person, especially, almost never needs to breathe through their mouth during a workout. Like you mentioned, that should only be during competition time where, yes, it is good to compete, even if you're just, general population. But that should be maybe 1 in 10 workouts.
Yeah, I would say it is good to go there about I'd like to say once a week, because you can go from the 85% to max heart rate. I do think there's also a lot of mental benefit of going to that extra extreme and pushing yourself through that hard portion of the workout where you're having to go all out. But you're right. You don't need to do it every workout. And that's what most people do, is they're coming in and doing that every workout. One time a week, go in there and be like, all right, I'm going to, keep nasal breathing as long as I can. And then let's really drop the hammer, whether it's a long workout or intervals, kind of depending on what it is, and really test yourself and push yourself. But you can also push yourself with that nasal only breathing and see how far you can go and push through that and build that capacity. The more you build that, the better you'll be further down.
And you'll also learn how to pace yourself a lot better.
Yeah, that's a great point. The pacing is key. Most people have no idea how to pace.
They just go 100% right out of the gate.
Only work, you're going to be paced. And then as everybody's dying down at the end of the workout, you're building. You're having negative splits like you like to see in endurance sports.
Yeah, you're speaking the aerobic capacity course language, which I took as well with Matt Fraser and Chris Hinshaw.
Yeah,
fantastic.
That's a good course.
It was great.
Great.
But yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on the exercise stuff, although I could talk about that for hours being a former CrossFit coach. I want to start to get into some tactile things that my audience can use, specifically entrepreneurs. What are some of the basics? You touched on box breathing, which is fantastic. Getting outside in nature. What are some other things that we can do on a daily basis that don't take away from our daily schedule? Because I think in the entrepreneurial space, so many people think, I don't have time for meditation. I don't have time to do breath work.
Breathe slower, breathe lower, and breathe through your nose.
Wow.
Those three things
Simplify it. Love it.
will go very far, and will get you a good bit of a way there. Just start doing that, and also start becoming aware of what happens when you get stressed. Where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your chest, your belly? Yep, exactly. Do you tense up in your shoulders? A lot of people have a lot of stiffness in their neck, shoulders. That's because
Tension, headaches.
We hold our stress there, and that's also a lot of where our poor breathing patterns show up because we're raising our shoulder. And when I mean breathe lower, I'm talking about breathing in a horizontal fashion. So our diaphragm sits right up here. It's like a little parachute. When you breathe in, it should just flatten out. Massages all these internal organs. Your ribs are sitting over here. They just lift up like little bucket handles. As you breathe out, they go back down, diaphragm is in. So this whole area, talk about the belly breath, but it really should be a horizontal 360-degree breath, where with practice and training, you can feel it all the way in your back. Like I'm sitting here breathing, I can feel my low back pressing into the chair here. And staying out of that, when I'm saying lower, that's really what I mean. And slow your breath rate down. And this is where not only just as you're going throughout your day, but all your transitions, as you go from the gym to your home or to the office, from the office to home, wherever you're having transitions between meetings, come back to that and just take a couple of minutes checking in and seeing how your breath feels. Where does it feel it's going? Can you slow it down? Breathe lower, breathe through your nose. That's my number one tip to give people, and it'll go a long way in changing just how you feel as you go throughout your day, your ability to handle those stressful events. And one more I'll give, talked about box breathing, is that extended exhale. Is slowing your exhale down really helps calm the nervous system down. So one more little kind of in the moment pattern I call is 2-4-6. Something's happened, you're a little frustrated, a little chaotic. Take 2 big breaths in the nose, out of the mouth, just like, then go in through the nose and a little slower out of the mouth for 4. Not counting, not worried about anything, just slowly in, slower out. Then 6 breaths, slow into the nose, 3 to 4 seconds, out for 6 to 8. You can exhale out of the mouth if you want, but really just trying to really slow that exhale down, doubling in the exhale to the inhale. And that's a great little tool, kind of an in the moment stress response.
Nice. Yeah, that's the longer you can prolong the exhale, the more parasympathetically active. What would you say is the quickest way to alleviate a stressful situation?
Get the eyes out of the computer, and then take a couple of those power breaths and slow your breath down.
Perfect. Have you heard of the double inhale, slow exhale?
Yeah, the little physiological sigh. So
yep.
Do you remember that's a good, I just, instead of doing the physiological, I just more of a power breath. So it's more of a,
yep.
I feel like a lot of people have a hard time remembering the 2 part, that they can just remember big in the nose and out of the mouth. It's just like when you trying to get a hold of your breath. It's one of the techniques I use with people in the ice. People get in the ice and it's a big, quick power breath. And if you're struggling to do that, go in through the mouth, out of the mouth, and then switch it in through the nose and out of the mouth.
Yeah. Speaking of ice, sucks that we didn't get to talk about it today, because that's something that, I'm big on. I have an ice bath out back. All my clients take cold showers. Almost
talk about it here for a second.
Yeah, let's do it. Almost every single one of my high-performing guests that I have on either takes cold showers or does some form of cold exposure. So what are the benefits? Why do people need to challenge themselves with cold water?
Well, it's going to be great benefits for your immune system, muscular recovery, overall cardiovascular health as well, especially when you're doing the sauna and the ice bath. It's almost a little workout for your capillaries, veins, and everything, as the blood's rushing into your core and going back out in your extremities. But I preach the mental aspect, doing something uncomfortable, doing something that you not necessarily want to do, learning how to control your breath in that environment. And, nowadays I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. It's really hot outside. Most of my clients who are doing our heat and ice, they struggle more with the sauna at this point. because sauna, I get it up to about 2:30. It's really hot. Learning how to calm yourself down in that situation. And when you calm yourself down with the breath, body starts to relax, starts to feel, everything's okay, allows a host of hormonal processes to go in the heat and the ice, heat shock cold shock proteins, helping your body kill off damaged cells. And one of the things is cultures have been doing this for thousands of years. Why? It makes them feel so damn good when they get done. Mm-hmm. And when you get done, you go kind of on a little ice high. You're kind of floating for a little while. Then your body's been very metabolically active, burning a lot of calories, get really hungry, sleep like a baby that night. And then you watch out because you might get addicted to it. Yes, you will. It feels so good that almost every single one of my clients say, like, yeah, I was scared to try it, but now it's common practice. First thing in the morning, cold shower. Yeah, that's right. If you don't have an ice bath, cold shower, just, start out. Can you get your breath under control for 3 breaths? That's what I do with new people in the ice. It's not about staying in the whole time. It's about building on your own capacity, wherever that is. And one of the ways to do that is getting your breath under control for 3 breaths. Then if you still want to jump out, I'll get them in the sauna, let get them heated back up and go back into it. But if you're in the shower, get 3 controlled breaths, see how you feel, then get out and work on expanding the amount of time that you're in there. Yeah. And last thing I'll say is I had a former Navy EOD bomb technician on my show, Brian, who I think the Fear Sherpa. And even in such a stressful situation like he experienced with the skydiving incident, everything can be controlled and brought back to, I guess, baseline through your breath. Yeah. You can increase your heart rate, jack yourself up. You can decrease your heart rate, calm yourself down, all through the breath work in stressful situations. Right. So Taylor, I know we're coming up on our time here. Thank you so much for coming on the show and spreading your wisdom, your tactical knowledge in breath work that people can use, even if they don't have any time. You always have time to breathe, no matter what. So you're going to be doing it. You might as well do it well. Exactly. So tell us where we can find more about you and what you got going on with Symmetry. You can find me at www.symmetry.live, Instagram at symmetry.live, or at Taylor Somerville, Taylor _ Somerville. There you go. Sorry for the confusion on that one. I run virtual classes 3 days a week. Monday typically is a stress focused class. Wednesday, we work on improving mechanics and improving our tolerance to carbon dioxide and making us more efficient using that oxygen we're taking in. And Friday is a longer breath session, which I would consider, I call it Journey of the Breath. It's more transformational, what people tend to think of breath work as. And it's about that one, we go for about 40 minutes, put it to music. Also, one-on-one clients, do a lot of work one-on-one with people virtually and in Memphis, Tennessee here, and then hopefully be traveling around and having some cool things going on in the future. So check into the Instagram and the website and you'll be able to get all that. And you have online courses, correct? Yeah, I have a couple of online courses as well. Blog, free ebooks. If you go to my website, you can find all that there. Okay. And for everybody listening, we'll include links to all of this in the show notes because you definitely need to learn more about breathwork, and Symmetry is a fantastic resource for that. Taylor, again, thanks for coming on.